Hi, and welcome to AUPhysicsTwo LM386 audio amplifier. This is Dr. Hogger. I'm going to give you a little tutorial on the LM386 audio amplifier that we're going to be building in lab this next week, next couple of weeks. And I just wanted to give you some pointers here. And this will be, there'll be at least 2, maybe 3 parts to this. So let's go ahead and start. So what I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label this as Part 1. And so once we get through some of the preliminaries, I'll stop, and then we'll have a second video or a third, and maybe a third video that show you some of the other details that you're going to need. So first of all, what we're going to be making is an audio amplifier, and what this amounts to basically is you're going to have an audio source. This audio source will probably be your cell phone. It could be other things, but that's mostly what we're going to be using it for here. This is going to be playing music. What we're going to do is we're going to run that into an amplifier, and the reason is that when you've got an audio source, basically what it is a signal that varies with time, and that signal varying with time needs to go into a speaker. Well, the problem is that your cell phone or other sources like that really don't produce a high enough voltage to make the speaker loud enough, and so what we have to do is boost that voltage up with an amplifier, and so that's what you're going to be building. This amplifier then would go into an audio speaker, and I'll show you my little symbol for an audio speaker, which will, as you will see, we will have to ground that. And then of course over here we have an ear. Yes, that's an ear, okay, that's going to listen to the sound coming out. The amplifier we're going to be using is a boost that signal from the source to the speaker by about 20 times. And so if you had, say, a 0.1 volt source or a 0.1 volt signal coming out of your signal or out of your source, that amplifier would boost that up by a factor of 20, so the 0.1 volts would turn into about 2 volts, and that's going to make the speaker a lot louder and the sound a lot better. So that's what we're looking at doing. That's sort of the big picture of it. The device that we're going to be using is called an LM386. So let me give you a little introduction to that. If you Google LM386, you'll get tons of hits on this, and you'll be able to find from the Texas Instruments link this data sheet. And so this is the first page of it. You'll see that it says LM386 low voltage audio amplifier, and let me just point out a few features of this that we're going to find useful, and really this is why we're using it. First of all, it's battery operated, or can be battery operated, and so these run on, very good for portable audio applications like headphone amplifiers and stuff like that. And so that's what most of you guys will run that on, probably a 9 volts or so battery. It's got a minimum number of parts, so it's relatively easy to set up compared to some of the other amplifiers that you could use, and so it's a good one to start with to learn how to do this. The other thing you'll notice that the voltage range it's got a nice range of 4 to 12 here. What we're going to use is a 9-volt battery. Some of you guys will choose to use a wall wart, but that'll be up to you, and we'll come back to that separately. You'll see the voltage gain here is it says 20 to 200. By default, it's set up to be 20 times, as I said before. You can make adjustments to the circuit, and some of you guys will want to do that as an optional thing, where you can actually boost that gain all the way up to 200, which is quite significant. One other thing I wanted to show you is the distortion. They call it low distortion at 0.2%. What that is sometimes people will call that the total harmonic distortion. The lower that is, the better, because that's telling you that the signal that's coming that's coming out of the source and then going into the speaker is really the same. It's bigger, but it has the same shape, it has the same musical features and so on. So if it's distorted, that's a bad thing. So 0.2%, they're calling that low. I'm going to give you something to compare that to in a second, and I'll let you make your mind up. The other thing that's on this page right here is a little circuit diagram, or I guess it's more of a schematic, sort of a picture. These LM386 chips come in 8 pins. You'll notice there's a little notch over here. That notch tells you when you put it on the board that pin 1 is here, and you'll notice it counts from pin 1 to pin 4, and then from pin 5 to pin 8. So there's a total of 8 pins, and they'll connect, or they'll count around counterclockwise like this. And as far as I could tell you, every integrated circuit I've ever seen is kind of lined up the same way, where it starts at pin 1 and goes around counterclockwise. A couple of things about this. First of all, you'll see that pins 4 and I guess pin 2, we'll see this on another diagram, but a lot of these aren't going to be used at the first thing. But notice that the input here on pin 3, we're going to see that. That's where our signal is going to come in from our source. You'll notice that the output's on pin 5. That's going to go to the speaker. And then pin 6 here, they call it VS. That's going to be coming out of the battery, the 9 volts. So we'll come back to that in a second. But this is the basic diagram showing you these 8 pins, and we'll look more closely at the circuit here in a little bit. Let me give you something to compare this to. I went and looked up for contrast's sake, I guess, this amplifier. This is a power amplifier known as an MC601 made by Macintosh. And Macintosh, I think, is in Rochester, New York. And if you know anything about audio, Macintosh amplifiers are sort of the holy grail. They're really some of the highest quality that you can get. And this one in particular makes several hundred watts of power. And let me show you another page here so you can see some of the particulars here. First of all, this amplifier, this 601, is 600 watts. So compared to your about 1 watt amplifier, that's significant. 600 watts is really tremendous. You'll see that it's got a power band from 20 to 20 kilohertz. That's nice. That 20 kilohertz is beyond or at about the range of human hearing. The 20 hertz on the low side here would be sort of that real thumpy bass that you might want. But notice this, one of the key factors on this amplifier, the total harmonic distortion on this is 0.005%. And that's absolutely spectacular. I mean, it's just so low, and that just tells you the quality of this amplifier. And that's what Macintosh is really known for. Unfortunately, this amplifier weighs about 93 pounds, which is about the same as a 3rd or a 4th grader. And the other thing, the other stinger here with this device is that it costs, I went and looked this up, $7,000, and this would be for 1 speaker. So if you wanted a pair of these, you're getting into the price of maybe a used Honda Accord or so. This happens to be well beyond your lab fees, and so we're not going to supply these to class, but when you guys become rich and famous, I would highly recommend getting yourself a Macintosh power amplifier or 2 for some audio quality. So let's move on though to the actual circuit that we're going to be building. This is out of that same data sheet. I cut this out, I think page 4 or 5 or so, and you can see that, as I said, the amplifier with this, it has a gain of 20 times, and so let's kind of look at these pins, and then we're going to stop, and I'll actually go through the connections on it. So here's the LM386. You can see that triangle shape, which is that universal amplifier shape. You'll see that what they've got here is pin 2. Pin 2 is going to be connected to ground. Pin 4 will be connected to ground, and pin 6 is going to be connected to VS, which effectively is going to be your plus 9 volts coming out of your battery. You'll notice here that pins 1, 7, and 8 are not connected at all, so we're going to leave those alone. You'll also see that pin 3 down here is where the input comes in. This VN is going to come out of an aux cable from your phone through an aux jack, and then it'll come into pin 3, so you'll see that in a second. And then pin 5 here is the output. Pin 5 goes out through a capacitor and then to the speaker, which is also grounded on the other side. So what I would like to do is stop here, and then I'm going to show you some of the connections, how to get the power onto this, how to hook the battery up to it, how to get the input and the output and set this up on the breadboard. So that's what's coming next, so stay tuned for part 2.